Making transitions between colors is easier when you have premixed some colors, but there are more benefits. But first off, what is premixing colors? Now, of course, we all know that the manufacturers of paints always forget to put in the colors that we exactly need in the tubes and bottles. So a lot of the times we have to mix colors ourselves. And one way to approach that is to just start painting and mix all the colors on the fly with your brush. But another approach is to premix some colors on your palette with a palette knife. So what you could do is just look at your subject and try to look only at the big color planes, the most important colors that you see, and premix those colors on your palette with a palette knife. Now that in itself already is a big benefit, because when we just start jumping in and start painting on the fly, we often forget to look at the bigger picture, but when we take a look beforehand at our subject and we divide it in big color planes, we are already simplifying the forms and objects and all the details that we see. And that's an important part of the painting process, is to simplify things. And you can always add details later on, but in the first stages you build your painting globally and you start working more specific later on. And there you have already the second benefit. Because you're taking the time to premix the colors, you can focus better on mixing colors. So your focus is on the mixing of colors and you don't have to be bothered with painting it at the right spots on the canvas yet. So you can take your time and mix and compare the color to what you see in reality. When you mix on the fly, then you're always busy mixing, comparing and putting it on the right spots at the same time. So then your concentration is more scattered around the place. Keep in mind, you don't have to mix all the colors that you see, it's only the main colors. So you can make a kind of a game of it. So you break down your subject into big chunks of form and color. And now the best part, the part that I really love still till this day, and that is that you can start painting with these main colors. And now you only have to check where you need to put the main colors. And when you need variations in between, for example, it is very easy to mix them on the fly. In a lot of cases, it's just a matter of combining two pre-mixed colors. This way you can very easily make transitions. But of course, you can also add all kind of other colors to alter your main colors. But try always not to pollute your main color too much, so always try to keep a bit of the pile unspoiled, so to speak. And sometimes people think it's too scientific or boring to premix colors. They say, oh, you're busy mixing colors all the time, when do you start painting? But it's quite the opposite, because mixing colors is fun and comparing the colors, it's sort of a sport, it's a game. And after that you have the benefit that you can concentrate on painting itself. So you only have to put the paint at the right spots and you can more easily mix colors in between, or alter the colors that you have on your palette. And that's really fun. So in the color mixing stage you're not bothered with the painting and the putting it at the right spots. And when you're painting, you're not bothered too much with the color mixing process. And then another great benefit, people often ask me, how is it possible that I see you painting hours on end with your palette, while my paints always dry so quickly on the palette? And most of the times when people say that, they use too little paint. But when you premix paint, when you premix colors, you make piles of paint. And these piles of paint stay wet for a very long time on your palette, so you can work with them very long. Of course, acrylics keep drying fast, so what you see here, for instance, is my palette that I used for this painting, and these paints stayed wet enough for about 2 hours. So you have quite a lot of time to use them. And if you use your brush to mix little bits of paint, it will dry almost instantly on your palette. And now that's not a problem if you slightly alter colors. because you need little paint in that case. So I mean, you can first premix a pile of paint with a palette knife, and of course, while painting you can make slight alterations with a brush, and then it doesn't matter that these little bits of paint dry quickly. So I hope I can convince you to try it at least. It's fun, and it helps a lot in the fight against the drying times. All that premixing stuff, I really need a coffee break. So let's sit down. Yeah, but you don't get me this time. I won't be sitting in this palette. Another big benefit of piles of premixed paint on your palette is sometimes you need more than one layer of the same color. And we know that acrylics dry darker. So with acrylics it's very difficult when you see dry color on your canvas and you want to have exactly the same color again because you want to alter it a little bit or you want to correct a mistake or something. It's very difficult to remix the same color that you see on your canvas. It's always a little bit of guesswork. But it isn't guesswork if you still have a little bit of that pile of paint on your palette. Because okay, it may look different wet on your palette than on the canvas, but you know for certain that that color was the same that you put on the canvas and it will dry the same. So that helps a lot, that saves a lot of frustrations. Now, of course, there's another benefit. These palettes with these strings of colors look great themselves, so you maybe don't even need to paint anymore. You can put this palette at your wall instead already. Now, the last thing I really need to say, because before you go premixing all the colors that you see around you, that's not necessary. Stick to some main colors first and alter them. But there's another thing, of course. You often have limited time for your painting sessions. So say for instance you have only got 1 or 2 hours to paint. Then you plan and you think, okay, what part of the painting am I going to do today? Which part of the subject do I take? So maybe you want to paint only a background piece. No, then focus solely on the background, the colors that you see, the main colors from the background. In this case, you know you don't have time enough to also paint the portrait as well or other things that you see. So leave those colors away, you don't need them. You don't even have to put those colors on your palette. Only put the colors on your palette that you need in this session. So that's a little bit of a different way of working than compared with oils, for instance, because oils dry very slowly. With oils you can say, okay, I'm gonna premix all the colors for the painting that I see. It's very easy to store the oils so that you can paint for a few days with the same palette, for instance. With acrylics that's more difficult. It is possible, but my take on it is that yeah, acrylics are different than oils, and so I just drop the colors that I need on the palette for that session and no more. And that's it. And of course, when you just start out painting, it's sometimes difficult to predict what you can do and what you can not do in a session of 1 or 2 hours. But with more experience, that gets easier. I'm curious, of course, if you already do it this way. Do you already premix colors? And yeah, share your experiences with that, because that's useful for other viewers as well. For me personally, the biggest benefit is the joy of painting that I have when I have premixed colors. I think we all can relate to that feeling that when you see a painter at work, and you always think, oh, it seems so nice, he's busy painting, and it's as if he is in a kind of trance state. That kind of stuff, and most of the times we aren't. It happens, but that's the same with sports and with music. Sometimes you get in a kind of a trance state that everything goes automatically and that kind of stuff, and that's great. But of course there are a lot of moments that you're just doing your thing. You're busy painting. But that's the image that we got. But chances are that you experience that fun that you think you see with other painters. You get that easier when you have premixed paints. Then you have the feeling that you're really painting, because you can use a lot of paint on your brush, enough paint at least, and you can alter the colors easily, and you can jump from one color to another, and that's just great, and that's fun painting like that. It's totally different than when you're painting and all the time you have to think, oh, I don't have that color, how am I going to mix that color? And meanwhile your canvas is drying and that kind of stuff. But maybe you disagree, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, see you next time.